Hey, welcome back to another episode of The Root of All Success. And if you're a longtime listener and viewer of the show, you can see that I'm in a different studio today. I only record in person probably 8 or 9 times a year, or 8 or 9 days a year. I have more episodes, I'm going to do multiple in a day. But today, I'm recording live and in person at the Greatness Factory in downtown Nashville, the 505 building, where the owner of this space is my guest, Coach Micheal Burt. Coach, welcome to the show, man.
It's good to be here.
Yeah,
right?
Good to be in your
own
studio.
Good to be in my own building. But it's good to be on this side,
yeah.
being interviewed, because I'm on that side a lot.
Now, what's the name of your show? Because people that listen to this show are going to want to go listen
all
to
of
yours.
my podcasts are under America's Coach. So if I do Person of Interest, I do a lot of series, like 8-part series. Like I'm doing a series right now with Price Pritchett called the Quantum Leap Strategy. So it's like eight sessions with me and Pritchett, and then I kind of shift it up. But all of them go straight to America's Coach.
All right, so you want to listen to other shows because podcasters or podcast listeners like listening to podcasts. Coach Micheal Burt is my guest today on The Root of All Success, but I'm going to be a guest on his show. So go America's Coach. Go check that out on all podcast players. And this is his studio, and we're grateful for you letting us use this. So, Coach, we've known each other now for 7 years. Has it been that long?
I think so.
That's crazy. How old is your daughter, your oldest child?
She's 12.
12, because I remember when she was a tiny little tot.
Yeah.
So, and you got 3 now, right?
I've got 3. I'm 48 years old, and I have a 2-year-old, and that will keep you young, brother.
Golly.
That will keep you young.
How in the world?
And it's a good thing. You know, my girls are tough-minded. I have a 4-year-old son that's just the sweetest, just the nicest, sweet kid you'll ever meet. He'll look at me and go, "I love you, Dad." And I'm like, "I love you too, son." And the girls will just punch you right in the face. You know, it's like the girls are tough-minded and the son is really relaxed, but they're all great.
Well, you have, when you and I met, you were coaching. Of course, you've been a coach for a long time, and I want to tell a little bit about your backstory, why you're called Coach Micheal Burt, because it's not just you're a business coach. You actually coached ball, and we'll talk about that in a minute. But when we met, you were coaching, and you had this grand vision of what you call a greatness factory, and you wanted to build this thing. And I remember sitting in one of your, you were above the juice bar in Murfreesboro in your in your studio or your office space there, and I came to one of your evenings where you were doing like a Shark Tank.
Yeah.
And let's see who was there. There was a bunch of cool people in that room, and there were people pitching things, and you threw up that picture of the greatness factory that you wanted to build in Murfreesboro because that's where you're from, and you wanted to on the good side of Murfreesboro. But that didn't materialize for other reasons you can explain. Mm-hmm. But here we are today in a $7.5 million facility. I think that's the right number that you built out, and it is absolutely gorgeous. So, did this manifest the way you wanted, or is it better than what you wanted?
It manifested better than I envisioned. We tried to do this about 4 times. And I bought a lot. I spent $100,000 on the plans in Murfreesboro, where I live, and the city wouldn't pass it. They wouldn't pass it because it was a very modern building. So it was really different. It was way ahead of its time. This was like 2016. And the city said, "We want you to make it look like the other buildings." And I joked and said, "I'm not building a complacency factory." You know what I mean? Like, I want it to be different, but it was new and modern and novel and different. And it was really hard to get it passed through the city. Became discouraged, kind of set on the idea. Then we took it to a mortgage company, gave me 9,000 square foot in the First Capitol building here in downtown Nashville. It was beautiful. It was built out. We did one event there, and the landlord kicked us out of the building because they said there's too many people and too much energy. And so I spent $250,000 on the furniture. So now this is try number 2, right? And so I tried to do this a couple times, and then one day I don't know, on a Saturday, I called Tony Giarratana, who's a great developer here in Nashville, and I have a condo here in the 505, and I said, "Man, here's my concept. Do you have any office space, right, for me to do this?" And he said, "I have it right here in the 505. And this was 8,000 square foot inside the 505, which is one of the most luxurious buildings in Nashville. I came and looked at it. He said, "You want to see it?" And I said, "Yes." And we put a deal together for me to purchase the 8,000 square foot and then turn it into this, which is 3 levels, right? Co-working, which I don't really like that term, more of a lounge for members. Then it goes to private offices. Then it comes up here to like Disneyland for business adults. You got a theater, a 109-person theater, podcast studios, really cool rooms. Any given day, you may see major influencers here. Brad Lee's here today. You know, Dan Martell was here just a few weeks ago doing a book signing. So it's really becoming like a hub of just great people coming together, which was the vision.
How many years ago were you coaching basketball?
I coached from 1996 to 2008, and I was the first an assistant at Riverdale High School, and then I was the head coach for 9 years.
So in 2000, what year did you win the state championship?
08.
08.
Yeah.
That was it.
08 was the year.
Gone. You did in and out.
Took me 10 years to do that. And people always ask me, how did I get into this business? Truth is, I was fascinated by business the whole time I was a basketball coach. My grandfather was an entrepreneur, and it kind of jumped through our system. And then it's like, I love business. I fell in love with Stephen Covey, I was a huge, disciple of his work, and I just studied it and devoured it. And so I was always had like a business and commercial acumen to me. Even when I was a high school basketball coach, I was coming up with ideas, and I was one of the first coaches to have my own website, and I was doing life after basketball, and so I started writing books, right? I started writing books. Business people got a hold of the books, and they said, come speak to me, to my company. And I would go speak, and they paid me more in an hour than I made in a month. So I go, what do I have? And so one book turns into two, and now there's 22 books.
22 books.
Yeah.
Now, at one point, what was your first book?
Changing Lives Through Coaching.
Changing Lives.
We don't sell that one because it wasn't very good. We don't want you to find it on eBay or in a little bookstore. It really kind of, I won't say it sucked, but I was 25 years old. I didn't have a lot to say at 25. And then the second one's called The Inspirational Leader, very average book. But the third one was called This Ain't No Practice Life. And that one, people really liked it. It was like a blueprint. I was a Covey guy, so he had 7 habits. I had, 7 big decisions you need to make. And it was like a simple version of the 7 habits. Yeah. And that one really started getting me speaking engagements. And I would go speak, just like you saw me at that Italian restaurant that day. I would speak for free a lot, and people would see me speak. And a business guy like you would say, hey, come see me, and let's talk about what you could do for my business. And I would go, and I'd say, what do you want me to do? Well, we like motivation or drive or sales or whatever. And my real skill set is activation. Activating a prey drive inside of people, activating a boldness inside of people, activating a imagination, and activating monetization. Taking your stuff and making more money with it. So I became kind of a specialist of that.
When you started writing books, before you wrote that first book, had you already gone through Covey's stuff, or was that
around
the
same time?
Yeah.
I borrowed the money from my mother, $2,500 to go through Covey's certification, 5 days, 8 hours a day, and it changed my life.
Yeah.
Because it started to plant a seed in my mind that when I grow up, I want to be like that dude.
Yeah.
I want to impact people like he did. He had such an impact on me just through emotional identification. Like, I didn't know him personally. I just studied his work. And the deeper I got, the more my life changed, man.
Out of the 7 habits, what was the one that stood out to you the most, made the biggest difference?
Gosh. Begin with the end in mind is probably the one I use the most.
Yeah.
Think win-win, because now I do major deals, multi-million-dollar deals, and thinking, thinking about just what's a win for them. Seek first to understand, then to be understood. It's so good, man. His stuff has so much meat on the bone. It's not it's just pop-up psychology or feel-good motivation. It's deep. It's methodical. You know what I'm saying? And that's why I fell in love with that.
I remember it was in 2020. I read the book for the first time, and I'd known you now at that point for a few years, and you had talked about it. Of course, anybody paying attention has heard of the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, but I'd never read it, and so I read it for the first time in 2020. But also, my wife gave me, I think it was either Christmas of 2020 or Christmas of 2019. I can't remember. And then the following year, I'd have to go back and look at my YouTube channel, but she gave me the 52-week card deck for the 7 Habits. So you know what I'm talking about? It's a little blue card deck. Yeah. And what I decided to do, because we as teachers know that you learn more by teaching than you do by learning from other teachers, and I said, I'm going to do a video every single week on one of these cards. And so for 52 weeks for that year, I did videos, and some of them are okay. A lot of them sucked. Yep. But I put them out on YouTube, and that's how the 7 Habits became who I am.
Yeah.
But I'm going to tell you something interesting. I want to get your perspective on this.
Okay.
I've done a ton of reading since then, and I've gotten, gone down rabbit trails on different thoughts, a lot of metaphysics, really interested in that.
Interesting.
I started listening to the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People again about 2 months ago on my morning walks and bike rides. I can't get in it again. I
Yeah.
can't do it. It's like it's still good content, but I'm
Yeah.
like, this seems like elementary
Yeah.
compared to where I am now. And I don't mean
Yeah.
any. I'm not disrespecting the work. Have you ever had that happen, or has that happened to you with
yeah.
his content?
Well, I think as a coach, you pour into a lot of people and you write books and it affects people. But then, once you've gone through it, it's easy to take it personal. Like when somebody stays with me for 3 years, then they say, good, I'm good. Thank you. And they tell people I'm still their coach. They're not paying us for me to be their coach. But they say, that dude changed my life. That's my coach. Like Covey was my first guy. And I studied it for 8 years, right, deep. And then I'm like, okay, I don't go back and read it a lot now. Like now I'm reading Price Pritchett, Quantum Leap Strategy. I think as you evolve, you kind of find a new mentor for that season of your life, right? And so it was Covey for a period, and then I got into Strategic Coach, and it was Sullivan and his work, which was so valuable. And then I was coached by Dave Blanchard that owns all the rights to Og Mandino's work, right? And then it's like, now it's Pritchett. And I'm lucky enough at this point in my life to be able to partner with the people that I want to be coached by, right? Yeah. Like I went to Price Pritchett, he sold 14 million copies of his books.
Let's take a quick break to thank our amazing sponsors for making this podcast possible.
I finally got it. It's the brand new Relay credit card. So check it out. I'm going to do a little unboxing for you so you can check this out. So here we go. Nice little case. Kind of like the American Express, They're not playing. They're doing it right. Oh, look at this. There's a quote right inside. It says, "Success is having to worry about every damn thing in the world except money." Johnny Cash. That's pretty good. I've not heard that one. Oh, this is nice. A little thing on the back. Up to 1.5% cash back. No annual fees or interest. 30-day billing cycle. And there it is. It's the Relay credit card. It's a Visa. So I'm not going to show you my number, but there it is. Look at that. Boom. Go to therealjasonduncan.com/relay.
Thanks for listening to our sponsors. Now, back to the show.
Square Quantum Leap Strategy. Great psychologist. He's 82 years old. And I said, man, I want to work with you. And would you be willing to do a program with me? And so we put together a full year program for leaders. And it's like, that's my guy. So it's like I get to work with him while I'm learning from him,
That would be awesome.
And it's like me reading Sharon Lecter's book, 31 years old, because I know you've done some stuff with Sharon. And it's like, I didn't know the difference between an asset and a liability at 31. I was a basketball coach. Yeah. I didn't have any money. I didn't have any assets. I just woke up and did what I love doing. But I was smart enough to know I need to grow my financial IQ. So I go and I buy How to Grow Your Financial IQ by Robert Kiyosaki and Sharon Lecter. I didn't know who Sharon Lecter was. And then, 7 years later, I'm at her house having dinner with her. We're doing events together. It's the craziest thing in the world.
I'd never heard of Price Pritchett, and somebody, I think it was Don Proctor.
Bob Proctor.
Bob Proctor.
Yep.
Bob Proctor mentioned U Squared as one of his books that he said you should read. Yeah. I was like, I've never heard of this book, so I looked it up, read it, and it's short. It's tiny. It's a tiny little book. Dude, that is such a good book. People need to go look that up. It's such a great book.
Well, he calls it the minimum effective dose. He writes tight because if you look at the percentages, only a very small percentage of people actually finish the books, right? The average American read less than one book a year. Average American reads less than one book a year. Of the people that buy books, only 46% of people start and finish a book. So he writes tight for that reason. Now imagine selling 14 million books with no funnels, no landing pages, no marketing, just by people sharing it. Isn't that crazy?
That's great.
Like the way in the world we live in, it's marketed and it's landing pages and speaking engagements and he really spent 50 years in mergers and acquisitions. He called that the big table. A small company to him was 500 million. It was Ford and GE and he's coming in as the psychologist when they merge. And he's got 50 years of that data, assessments, executive assessments. So he's really a really brilliant guy. And I felt, my conscience told me, you know how to package a market, coach. Come in and help him bring this to the world. Bring it to the commercial world, right? So I reach out to him, and I have a boldness about me that's just been cultivated over the years. I'm not afraid of rejection. And I was in Texas speaking, and I said, man, I'd love to come meet you. And he said, let's take the meeting. And we took the meeting, and I said, would you be open if I handled everything, put a program together, my team handled it, we marketed it? And he said, present it to me. And here's what he said at 82. He said, I'm looking for a new game to play. I'm open to this, right? And that's
you squared.
So Quantum Leaps is, and he wrote a book called Lucky You about the probability of luck. And the way you improve your luck is you be open. Like if you come today and say, man, I got a big opportunity, let me present it to you. The lucky person says, I'm open, present it to me, right? They're not closed-minded, and they circulate. People have luck circulate, and they meet people, and they follow up with people, and they're open to anything, closed off to nothing.
Man, I love the story at the beginning of You Squared about the fly.
Yeah.
You know, this fly's busting his head against the glass at this restaurant trying to get out, and no matter how hard he tries, he's never going to get out. He's got to completely change how he operates. And that's so true for so many entrepreneurs. Yeah. In your experience as a coach, do you have a story that you can look and you don't have to name a person's name, but you can say, this is a person who was like that fly. And when he finally agreed to work with me or work with the coach, he was able to find the door and get out.
I think first I would be that person. I was raised by a single mom, tough, gritty. That woman scratched and clawed for everything she had, and she instilled that in me. A lot of my prey drive comes from that, and a stubbornness. That is good to a point, right? And the work you do, you see this? That will get you so far. Yeah. And I was like that fly hitting that wall. No matter what the problem was, the solution was to work harder. As a basketball coach, I'm getting to the same place every year. I'm getting beat by the same people. I get mad. I go home. We'll work harder next year. Well, I was already working 320 hours a week. I was already working 7 days a week. So I sat down, and this is where Quantum Leaps come in, a Quantum Leap is about trying different versus trying harder, right? Yeah. And so I sat down with coaches who had won championships, and I said, tell me what I'm not doing. And they all knew. All of them that had won championships said, your schedule's too weak. You're not doing this. You do this. You know, you only got 2 players that you let shoot, and we can double team those players. You know, and it's like they told me. Very next year, I win a championship. I go back and I just a little bit, and that's the Quantum Leap.
Yeah, it is Quantum Leap. In
business, it's like you're getting to a certain point, over and over and over, whatever that number is, 2 million, 5 million, 10 million, and you just keep working. You just keep doing it. Then you get to a frustration point. You're like the fly who can't get out when the door's right over there. And then it's like, you know, who can help me? Who can help me do this, right? And I think there's, because I'm very practical. So when you read a book like Who Not How, the practical side of me, or when you read Quantum Leap, people say, well, how do you have a quantum leap? Like, I'm the guy that comes in and shows you how to do it, right? And it's like, you need 2 who's, in my opinion. You need internal who's, right? Like, I'm about to bring on a chief revenue officer that's going to run the coaching company. Seasoned at doing this, done it for multiple companies. That's one of my internal who's, right? And I'm like, you're in charge of this coaching company. Here's the revenue number. That's your job. That's internal. External who's are strategic partners. And that's the fastest way that I built my brand is just somehow ending up in rooms with some of the best people in the world. And then because of that Covey cycle and the discipline that I had of really developing a skill, and those people go, this dude's got a skill. We need to keep him in the room.
Last year you taught school. Did you teach too, or you were just coaching? When you
let me say minimally.
Minimally.
I always say I taught advanced honors physical education. The truth is, I was an average teacher because I spent so much time on coaching, and my boss was okay with that because I built this, national championship basketball team, and so my assistant coaches taught a lot of my classes when I was the head coach. So I wasn't in the classroom much, and I was in the gym some, but some of the students probably wouldn't recognize me if they saw me.
Last year you taught. What was your annual salary?
Ooh, I feel like, for some reason, I think $55,000. My last year, because I kept going back to college and getting more degrees, I think I was one of the highest paid public school teachers because I was athletic director, I was a basketball coach, I had supplements, you know what I'm saying? But at the end of the day, and they let me take the driver's ed car home as a courtesy car, which is a really funny story, because they couldn't give me any more money, and the principal said, I'm going to give you this car to take home at night. And he said, don't tell the other teachers. And how fast do you think? I mean, they knew. It's like, why does he get to take the driver's ed car home? but it had a brake in the passenger side. So people would get in my car and they'd be like, dude, what's up with the brake? And I'd be like, it's just how they make these Bonnevils, man. Special edition Bonneville.
Just don't hit that brake.
Don't hit that brake. So I think I was making about $55,000. And I was going over and speaking at Dell Computers and making more. If I was making $2,500 a month or whatever, $3,000 a month, I could go over to Dell Computers and make $5,000 for the hour.
Wow.
Back in those days. Now today we charge anywhere between $25,000 and $50,000 for that hour.
So it is fair to say that moving from $55,000 as a school teacher in 2008 to where we are at the end of 2024, that your income has 10x'd.
Yeah.
You've gone up quite a bit.
Yeah.
How's it feel?
It feels good, but when you do a big project like this, it shows you how much income you really need.
Mm-hmm.
When I've never built a commercial structure like this. I didn't know what I was doing. When I was meeting with Tony Giarratana, he said, I'm going to give you $800,000 for a tenant improvement as part of the deal. And he said, but that won't even cover the bathrooms and the mechanical in that building. And I went, did I hear him right? It's called MEP, Mechanical, Electrical, and Plumbing. He said, yeah, that'll be at least $1 million. And I was like, the toilets cost $1 million? But it's like the water systems, there was nothing here. It was concrete, right? And trying to put those things in here was incredibly difficult. The project manager says the most difficult job he has done in 26 years. The architect said it was the most difficult job he's did in the last 15 years. And there's something about the way the building was structured. It was all concrete. Just running water to here, all the things you got to do was, there's 14 different air conditioning units in this building. It's crazy.
Wow.
And I didn't know that. I'm like, $1 million for that? And so no matter how much money you make, and I asked my accountant the other day, like, what have we done in the coaching business? And she said, over the last X number of years, about $30 million in the coaching business, okay? Which I'm like, that's crazy. That's crazy that we've done that much. That's how much money we've collected, right? And then what I did is I took the money from the coaching business and I went and bought all this real estate. So projects like this, the lodge, I don't know if you've been out to my lodge out in Christiana, but I love real estate and I love coaching. So it's like, how do we combine these things? Where I take the coaching profits and I go buy real estate with it. And that's been a trend that we've done.
One of my mentors said that the number one indicator of the amount of money that you will make in a year is the amount of money you need to make in a year. So you've increased your need, so you've increased your make.
That's right.
Right?
And that's a good way, because if you say, if I just get to this income level, I'll be good, well, that's all in proportion to how big your goals are.
Yeah.
What if I want to build 20 of these? See where I'm going?
Yeah.
And what if each one costs $5 million? And this one's about $7 million, but it's from scratch. But what if I want to do this over and over and over? You're going to need a lot of capital. Yeah. And you don't really realize that until you try to do bigger things. Now, there's a paradox here, because that adds pressure and intensity, right? What if I just kept all the profits from the coaching business and took it easy, right? And just hung out? But that's not kind of how I'm wired. I'm wired to be pursuing something, like the championship. There's got to be something in front of me, because I've been coaching for 33 years. I started coaching at 15 years old, right? So when I'm 48. It's all I've ever known. But it's like, I'm ready for a seat at a bigger table. What does the bigger table mean? I love the coaching. I don't want to get rid of the coaching, but to me now it's one of my businesses. It's not my only business.
So in 22 years after leaving basketball behind and going into professional coaching business owners, what are some of the biggest mistakes and regrets that you have, and things that you messed up on? Obviously now you're very successful, but those mistakes are what led you to where you are. Failures become successes.
Yep.
So what are some of those?
I think what most people say is just playing too small for too long. Staying small with just a few people. Now, it doesn't mean I don't want 300 employees, but just the kind of people I'm in a room with today that are doing big deals. This is what I learned when I spoke at 10X in 2018. Those people were not more skilled than me, right? They were just more known than me. They were better marketers than I was, right? So this was a big lesson. It's like, it's not business, it's show business. And the more known you become, the more opportunity you get. So I think probably staying small or not thinking big enough is what a lot of people say, and I'd probably say the same thing. Mm-hmm. Seeing people not as an expense, but going, I really need somebody to do this, but that's an expensive person. Like, like a chief revenue officer, that's how your brain thinks, right? Like, who your who's are, but it's like to go get that person, it's a lot of money to get that person. And your brain weighs perceived loss at 2 times the rate than it does perceived gain. So you go, oh, well, I mean, do we really have to pay him that much money? But what if that person comes in and we jump $10 million more in the coaching company? And that really, if you look at what Dan Martell talks about buying your time back and kind of your concept of exit without exiting, that person is necessary for me to buy my time back if I don't enjoy running the day-to-day operations of the company or running the sales team. And I don't think the owner of a company should be the sales manager. It's too much pressure. When you're having a bad month, you put all that pressure on the employees and the sales team. So I just don't, I see that as a mistake a lot of small business owners make.
Yeah, I see it every day.
Yeah.
I know exactly what you mean. You've had several different things that you've clued in on in terms of this is your, I wouldn't say core message, but a main message that you teach. But we were talking pre-show about how that you've whittled that down. And
let's take a quick break to thank our amazing sponsors for making this podcast possible.
As an entrepreneur running multiple businesses, effective communication is critical for me. I've tried all kinds of outreach tools over the years, but none have compared to Dubb when it comes to driving real results, and that's DUBB. I was one of Dubb's first users. I think it was like 7 years ago when they first launched, and I've been a loyal customer ever since. Dubb has completely transformed my prospecting, my client communication strategy, and here's why. Dubb makes it simple to record personal video messages and share them across email, SMS, social media, and more. And this brings back the face-to-face connection that's missing from most digital outreach. And what happens is my prospects instantly feel more engaged when they can put my face to my name. I end up building a stronger relationship faster by incorporating these video messaging into my workflow. Dubb also provides tracking and analytics so I can see exactly who engages with my videos and how they respond to them. Their automation and their CRM features help me nurture leads and close more deals. I mean, that's what we're trying to do, right, as entrepreneurs. So after using Dubb for years, I absolutely can't recommend them enough. I mean, Ruben, those guys over there are phenomenal. I love Darius. They're all great guys. It's become an invaluable tool that I depend upon to run my businesses efficiently. And if you want to boost your outreach and see amazing results like I have, head over to therealjasonduncan.com/Dubb. That's DUBB, and you can try it completely for free. No credit card required. You get the first 50% off your first 2 months, by the way, if you use my link. You need to take your prospecting to the next level with video messaging from Dubb. They're my go-to sales communication platform for nearly 7 years and counting. Go to therealjasonduncan.com/Dubb. Try it for free, no credit card required, and you'll get 50% off your first 2 months as well.
Thanks for listening to our sponsors. Now, back to the show.
revised it, and you've kind of come to this understanding of there's this one thing that you're uniquely really good at teaching and activating. What is that?
Well, when you really think about, have you ever heard of Sheehan's Wall? So Sheehan's Wall is an imaginary wall between obscure, being unknown, and being known. Okay, and Peter Sheehan came up with it, but he's like, when you're over here and you're unknown, it's a very frustrating place to be. You're very talented, you have a level 10 skill, but you're kind of stuck because you're not known, right? And the more known you become the more opportunity you get. And the way you break through that wall, the way a lot of people think to break through that wall is I'll just look at somebody who's successful, that does what I do, and I'll just do what they do, right? But that's not how you break through the wall. You actually break through the wall by becoming the best in the world at what you do and getting very clear of your primary skill and the problem you want to solve, okay? So when I'm going through these exercises, I'm like, okay, what is my primary skill? And when I wrote Flip the Switch, I spent 2 years, studied all the motivational theories, deconstructed those theories, and then I trademarked the 2 words prey drive, which is prevalent in an animal, right? An animal has a prey drive, which is the animal's ability to stalk, capture, and kill prey. Well, humans have that prey drive, but it's their ability to see something and pursue it. And then I codified it, come up with my own motivational theory, and then I wrote that book, and that book became a Wall Street Journal bestseller. And what I figured out by writing that book is I am a specialist at activating that drive inside of people. That drive, once that drive is activated inside of a person, they want to expand. So if you ask every one of these people who come to this Greatness Factory, what has Coach Burt done for you? You know what they're going to say? Man, he activated something inside of me to want to do bigger things. I can do it. So my specialty is activation. I activate boldness inside of people, or psychological flexibility, which is the ability to move towards something. Even if they don't know if it's going to work, I activate their imagination to see a bigger future. I activate prey drive, and I activate packaging and monetization. Okay, so the two people I serve, typically $2 to $50 million business owners, and they got one or two problems. They are stuck at a same level and they're looking for a jump, and I kind of activate that drive and they go, right? Then I bring in that quantum leap that I'm learning from him, like this is how I'm going to go from 2 to 20. Or I work with people who are very talented, just like I was this week with Amberly Lago, great speaker, and I help them package their intellectual property in a way that would produce a lot more money for them. And that's where that skill came from. I don't know. I don't know if it came from me studying Covey or Sullivan, but I'm a specialist at packaging intellectual property. You're sitting in an idea I had that's probably a $10 or $15 million idea, and you're sitting in it, right? Mm-hmm. The Greatness Factory, and who knows, maybe a $100 million idea, right? I'm in talks with people right now of other companies that have big places that may want to purchase this and go, we want it to be one of our brands. So one simple idea could be worth millions of dollars if it's packaged correctly.
In the way that you've unlocked your success over these last, couple of decades, what would you say is the one key that has unlocked success for you more than anything else?
Exposure. I somehow have found my way into the rooms with people that are playing at such a big level. It's like activated that drive in me to know that I can go to a much higher level. Remember, I was a basketball coach, but I was always thinking bigger than the other coaches, right? And they made fun of me, by the way. I mean, they were mean to me. And they laughed at me and they mocked me. And who do you think you are, Mr. Motivational Speaker? And then I kicked their butt. and the funny thing is, when I retired, the week after I retired, one of my greatest competitors hired me to work with his team. And it was crazy. I'm like, you want me to come work with your team? I thought you guys hated me. And they were like, no, we don't hate you. You were just our biggest threat.
You were a threat, yeah.
And now that you're not a threat, we would like to pay. They paid me to work with their team. I ran the practices, I ran the meetings, and they like, we just want you to bring what you're doing to us. So to me, I was thinking small. So the big one thing that's helped me is exposure, which is an activator prey drive. When you see this, there's not a person that I bring here that doesn't go, now this is cool. It don't matter who it is, right? Tony Giarratana, who's built these structures in Nashville, he's like, now this is cool, coach. Brad Lee, who's walking through, he's like, this is cool. Richard Dolan, who's over there, he's like, this is cool. So it's like, it's exposure. Once you see it, your mind's you're gonna think bigger.
How do you define success? What does that mean to Coach Burt?
To me, success is pursuit. It's not capturing or winning something, because the truth is, after I won a championship, I mean, there was nowhere to celebrate that night. It was 12 o'clock. I'd done interviews. I was exhausted. I was starving. I went to Steak and Shake with the gold basketball because there's nowhere for me to go. There's no parties. There's no celebration. There's no champagne. It was like, okay, we did it. I took the gold ball, big old gold basketball, to Steak and Shake, and I set it on the counter. And I go, man, I'm hungry. I like a double steak burger because that's the only thing that was open. And I just sat there with one of my friends, and we just talked. And then on Monday, I took it back to my boss, and I said, put it in the trophy case. And what's next? Building this, as soon as you build it, you want to build another one. So to me, success is, you hear all the fancy definitions of success, the continued expansion of happiness and the worthy pursuit of ideal goals or whatever. That's a good definition. Here's what I know, Jason. I'm miserable when I feel stagnant. I'm miserable to be around. My wife would tell you, if we were on an island in St. Lucia, it's in a bungalow, looking at the fish, right? After 3 days, I need to pursue something. That's just who I am.
Well, by that definition, do you consider yourself to be successful?
I do. It's all relative. I consider myself humble and hungry and teachable. And to me, it's all relevant. It's like Michael Jordan's worth whatever, a couple $1 billion, and that's crazy. But if you put him in a room with Jeff Bezos, Bezos is worth almost $1 trillion.
Yeah.
So it's not about the money. And you hear people say that, but I use money to do bigger things, but I don't do what I do. I really have some kind of desire to be the best at what I do. I don't know if that was instilled in me by my mother but it's like I want to be considered one of the top thought leaders in the country, right? And that's just important for me for some reason. But you can be a successful failure. And I did this yesterday, and my mom was in the room when I taught this, and I put over here all of my roles. I'm a husband, I'm a son, I'm a dad, I'm a brother. You know what I'm saying? And to be honest with you, and then I put over here, I'm a businessman. And I said, over here, I'm crazy successful. Over here, I'm good at some things and I'm not that good. Maybe I'm a 5 on some things, I can be a better son. My mom texted me last night and she said, you could be a better brother. and you could call your mom more. But the truth is that's a hard exercise to do. And I did it on a plane and I cried through the whole thing. I was watching something and I just wrote all my roles over here. And my faith, my friends, I'm not a good friend sometimes because I'm so busy. I'm so booked all the time. I told the group yesterday, I can't remember the last time I got to have fun. Like I really just have fun because I'm so old, you know what I'm saying? And it's like there's always something for me to do. There's always somewhere for me to be. And some of that, my wife would say, well, you control that. And I'm like, well, like today I'm going to New York City for the book to be on the NASDAQ. They just called me last week and said they're going to do that. And it's like, what do you say? No, I'm not going. It's like, when are you going to have a book that's on the NASDAQ? So it's like I probably need some help in some of those areas.
Yeah. Well, I'd like to say, for the record, because I don't think I've ever told you how much I appreciate your influence in my life. Yeah. When you and I were introduced, I was running my lighting company at the time with no intention of ever doing anything different. I was an entrepreneur. I was successful. We were doing millions of dollars in revenue, making a lot of money. And, over the course of the next few years, just being under your influence of coming, because I was part of I think you just called it the 25K Club.
Yep,
I don't even have a name for it other than that. But being under the influence of that and coming to events at the lodge and doing those things, it really influenced me in ways that I didn't recognize until much later. Because I have written a book now, and part of that was because you talked about it. Even though when you talked about it, it didn't activate anything specific at that time to go write a book. I didn't do a podcast at the time, and now we're almost 300 episodes in. And I, I've had lots of good mentors in my life, and I want to consider you in that field. And I appreciate what you've done. And I know we don't hang out or talk much, but I do appreciate it when we do connect. And well, thank you for your influence.
Well, I don't hang out with many people, so don't feel bad. That's an area I got to work on. I need to come to the Standard and with you wherever you go and just sit there and just relax and hang out and do those things. And that's a 2025 goal for me.
Well, you're invited with me to go anytime, but here's what we're going to do. The last time you came, the only time you came with me, is we started to have a great conversation, and it got interrupted, and that dude bogarted the whole conversation. I'm not going to say who it is.
I think I remember
But he came in, and he wanted to talk to you, and sat down, and he ordered dinner. And we're sitting here having a conversation. I'm like, dude, do you know how much money I pay this guy to have access to him? And you're just screwing this whole thing up. Anyway, I really do appreciate what you've done. And congratulations on your success. I'm impressed, and I think you like that people are impressed by it. I get the sense that you feel pride in that.
I do.
So I am. I'm impressed by it. I want you to, as we get ready to close, final word. I want you to put your coach hat on, because I don't think you ever take it off, but I want you to put your coach hat on and talk to the audience. What's your best piece of advice for the entrepreneurs listening to this show?
No matter what you create, there's certain things, certain principles I live by, and you'll see those all throughout this Greatness Factory. We go to bed tired, we wake up hungry. No matter how much recurring revenue you have, it's just stay in the game. It's like King David was a great king in the Bible until he didn't go into battle. You know what I'm saying? So it's like I always say, we go to bed tired, we wake up hungry. Tell yourself it all goes to zero at midnight, whether it does or not. That's part of, right? And just be alert, curious, responsive. Be expansive. Don't get to a point and just stagnate and just go, be in the game pushing toward that quantum leap. And quantum leaps happen. You don't know when they're going to happen, but they sure don't happen when you just kind of check out and get to a place of comfort and complacency. And there's a difference between contentment and it's like, I'm gratitude. I'm grateful, man. This is incredible, but also that prey drive inside of you to really pursue something bigger, I mean, with you were always coachable, and I think you found your voice now, right? Your concept is a big concept, exit without exiting. Your clubs are helping people. To me, it's like, that makes me proud as a coach. It's like your success makes me go like, this matters, man. What I do matters. And seeing, watching you do it makes me proud. It's like, that dude, man, exit without exit is a great concept. And it's hard to sell a bad concept, man. So that's a great one.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. So how can people get in touch with you?
CoachBurt.com. I'm on every social media you can imagine. And thegreatnessfactory.com if you want to see that. I'd love for people to come see it. Once they see it, their mind opens up. It's like, I want to use this room, and I can do this, and I can see myself using the theater, and I want to do the podcast. And I do think when I wrote Person of Interest, there is a deep desire in people to be known in the world, right? And that's important to people. So this place gives them a place to be somebody in the world.
All right. Well, thanks, Coach.
Thank you, man.
Well, there you have it. Another very successful entrepreneur about his journey to success, going from coach making 50 grand a year to, we didn't disclose it, but let's just say it's a lot more than that today, because he's got a drive in him, and he explained that. And I think when he talked about the fact that his unique thing is to help people activate that in themselves, is because he has it, and it's an innate thing for him. It's a characteristic of him, and because you don't have it and I don't have it innately, he wants to help bring that out in people, and that's what he does. So go check him out at CoachBurt.com. All you got to do is Google Coach Micheal Burt. You're going to find him, America's Super Coach. Big thanks to Coach Burt and his team for letting us use the studio today. I want you to tune in again next time when I talk with yet another very successful entrepreneur about his or her journey to success. The voiceover guy at the end's got some stuff you need to listen to. But until next time, as always, I'm the real Jason Duncan, and Jesus is King.
Attention business owners. Attention business owners. Feeling burnout from running your business? Uncertain if you're nearing burnout? Take our free 10-question business burnout test at businessburnouttest.com to discover where you stand. With just 10 quick questions, you'll learn how to immediately begin making changes to regain freedom and success. Cut your daily operations time in half. Improve your quality of life and prepare your business for your future exit without losing revenue or profit. Visit businessburnouttest.com now and take the test. Thank you for listening to another edition of The Root of All Success with the real Jason Duncan. If you've enjoyed this week's episode, visit therootofallsuccess.com to access the show notes and other helpful resources. Follow Jason on social media at The Real Jason Duncan. See you again next time here on The Root of All Success.
This podcast is a part of the C-Suite Radio Network. For more top business podcasts, visit c-suiteradio.com.